And confirmed we are on YouTube and Twitch. So welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a lovely Tuesday morning, and we are here mainly to provide you with support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those, you can feel free to jump over to our IRC chat, which you can get to in a couple of ways from foolishtechshow.com. We'll be more than happy to interrupt whatever we may be talking about to focus on that instead. Uh, just keep in mind that the rest of the time we'll be just talking random shop stuff, and any opinions expressed there are of the individual that expressed them. So this is our second reformatted show where we're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. respectively, and doing it for 30 minutes. So let's get to it, I guess. How's everybody doing this Tuesday?
Pretty well, thanks for
Yeah.
asking.
Doing well.
Good deal. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Well, not much in chat. It looks like CC James was in there yesterday with some D-support things.
Huh?
But yeah, it'll be even more likely that IRC will not be the best route to reach us. Our support channels will probably be the best chance to reach us, unless you want to use our show times for that portion. So,
Now, I just FYI, CC James, I was able to assist him with his trouble.
Oh,
Um,
good.
cool. Well, that is the fallback. Is if you don't get an answer in IRC or can't wait, definitely use our support channels that we have
Yes. That always works.
listed and such.
We're always there. Unless we're sleeping.
um, so other than that, we do have a new build of Crypto Prevent that we're going to be probably releasing today. I have a couple of ransomware things that I want to add into it to prevent against. Michael's updated some of his research, so I do have a couple of those things that I want to add in there, but we're looking at a pretty hefty build. We're going up to 8030, and this one will include some reworked service stuff, some reworked application stuff, some reworked update stuff, all kinds of stuff reworked to try to make it better, faster, smarter, stronger, all that good stuff.
Yay.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. We should see that released sometime today. We're going to do some more testing once we add that ransomware stuff in. But from there, we should have another announcement coming out, but we'll save that until we're ready to announce that. Other side, uh, Michael, did you want to talk about that DSS thing that we found, or you found?
okay, if you would like me to, sure. So I have I was working with someone that had a large number of client IDs in their list and wanted to sort them. And there are two options under the list menu in DSS for sorting by date, which I believe is the default, and sorting by name. And clicking either of those two does cause a crash in DSS with an error. Let me see if I can recall what
Well,
that error is. So, one moment.
It says object does not support this property or method,
Oh, there we go.
and it's a
Yeah.
runtime 438.
So I was able to reproduce that pretty consistently, absolutely consistently. I was also looking for a way potentially to manually edit that. I thought those client IDs were stored in a INI file, and I thought possibly switching the order of those lines in the INI file may force the interface to show them in the order that I wanted. But I didn't have much luck with that, although I don't think I fully explored it. I would welcome your advice, Nick, if you know anything in that regard. but it may to get those choices of the list button to work, it may require some work. May need you to look at it.
But right now, what we're trying to get across is that the sorting does not work on DSS, and we know it's an issue, and we're going to be looking into options for it.
Wow, I didn't know it was an issue, but okay.
Well, I'm saying now we know it's an issue.
Oh, okay.
Because we were able to reproduce it.
Proctor uses that all the time.
He might not require that he sort them. If he doesn't have, I imagine sorting is not going to be terribly much of an issue until you have.
Well, I mean, it's going to be. I mean, if it's a 438, it's a component thing, and it's probably has to do with the version of the code jock OCX on the system. But we'll go over it after the show. Honestly, I need a nap. Still, I had a big breakfast. But I'll think on that. We'll go over it after the show. I'm just a little groggy at the moment, but
yeah, sure.
That would be the issue with the component.
I wasn't considering that.
Code jock, and it may be one of those things where it's not necessarily like the manifest that specifies the code jock thing. I mean, it may be ignoring like the OCX in the directory for another one on the system, depending on what other apps we use or someone else uses the same component that's been on the system. But because of the way the ActiveX COM works and that the dsupport suite is older and doesn't use like a manifest that specifies a location necessarily, so it should be using the one in the current direct. But the way that the look up the ROT table is something the way the ActiveX objects are shuffled around in the system. But we'll have to talk about that later. I bet there's another component on there, or was like an older or newer, or something. I don't know, but we'll look at it after the show. I'm pretty sure it's not like an actual problem with the binary itself, maybe. But anyway.
Well, that's good. I'll look into that myself. But thanks.
Yeah. So was that some object table, right? Or something our object table. Anyway, all right. Yeah, cool. We'll get a cup of coffee. Morning, Proctor.
Rot does sound like a strange.
Warren, is the show on?
Yes, we're on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It seemed very informal.
We were talking about a ESS thing we came up with, which actually Nick said you use all the time. Have you ever tried sorting the list of client IDs?
You asking me?
Yes.
Sorting a list of what client IDs?
And dsupport suite?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay. If you do, we found out that that's an issue. Possibly something with the DLL hell scenario, but
Gotcha.
We'll be looking into it after the show. So other fun, interesting news. Tomorrow, apparently, Hack5 is going to come out with a new
I saw that
piece of hardware. They call it the Bash Bunny, and basically
the most advanced attack platform yet, right?
The teaser video just shows you a USB device, and that is about it. I had confirmation that it does end up showing as a HID, a Ethernet, and a mass storage device all in one USB port. So lots of areas there.
So I would gather it seems to be maybe a combination of some of the technologies in their other products, as well as maybe some new goodies.
Hopefully new goodies. It does seem like it's set up to be a possibly land turtle and rubber ducky combination device. But at the same time, with how cheap ARM stuff is, they could have done just a full single board.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that goes. But we won't know until tomorrow, their official release date, and then they're going to have a release party or something the
Yeah.
day after, I believe. So
It's just speculation at this point, but wait a day, right? It's not that bad. But I did see the email arrive, and I was kind of excited, and it looked pretty small, pretty compact. So that's good. It's definitely not a competitor to any of their pineapple stuff, obviously.
no,
Um,
somebody said they did an FCC search and didn't come up with anything. So
yeah, so it's
probably
definitely
doesn't have wireless built into it.
wireless, great, yeah. So, cool. Well, I hope they keep that affordable, and I hope it's feature rich like they usually have. And I'm sure that the interface will be easily accessible and programmable. So we should see some good stuff from the community once that gets out there.
It'll be fun to see what they bring up. Um, Other news, though, apparently Raspberry Pi has updated their Zero and made it Raspberry Pi Zero W, which for $10 is the same size, it looks like, as the Raspberry Pi Zero, but includes Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. So that'll be nice.
Hmm.
And for $10 only. And they got a nice little interesting case too that comes with. And I thought this was pretty interesting. What's you guys' opinions on this? So apparently the upcoming feature in Windows 10 that's all the rage recently is the fact that they're going to allow administrators to block Win32 applications, meaning that you'd only be able to install things from the Windows App Store, which is based off their universal.
It's going to be a pretty worthless version of Windows, isn't it?
Well, that's what the cloud feature is going to be. Is that essentially is their Chrome competitor? But now they're actually offering it to. And that's what I'm wondering. Is this going to be useful in enterprises? Are there enterprises that only use?
Here's a computer
I
that
think
you can.
I think most enterprises don't give a crap about the store.
Yeah, that's what I found.
I thought most of them blocked the store.
Yeah, exactly.
And all that junk. Okay.
It's interesting to see that they're coming out with that.
Because it would render every organization I know that needs someone that needs to hire someone with the initials IT somewhere in the department name. They need that. You can't block that. Would rather block the store. They don't need that. They're usually trying to find ways to block
Okay,
that.
all right. This quote unquote feature, it doesn't appear, obviously you voiced several concerns, but another point of it is it just blocks the installation of Win32 apps. You'll still be able to run the apps if they're already installed, and so.
But now, what do you consider install? I mean, what is? Does it mean you use the Windows installer, so it's blocking the MSI service or is it blocking access to putting things in program files, which is already kind of
I don't see the value so much in this, but I'd like to see some more clarification on its value, even to enterprises.
Gosh, I mean, there's even like hardware devices that just wouldn't work or run, and just the neat things that. How would that work?
Well,
From
here's the thing. If I came out and said something, I said, our product has a feature that's extremely valuable to enterprises. Whether or not that product or feature is actually valuable to enterprises, if enough news outlets pick that up, it starts getting in the buzzword in people's ear, and all of a sudden, some guy comes to a meeting and says, "Oh, we have to have this enterprise feature in our product," when they don't even know what it does or how it works.
That's not how they released it. It was actually just some random guy that spotted this in one of the preview editions. It's like, hey, did you notice this feature?
Okay, well, so there was no media hype around it?
Well, no, the media hype came after this person was like, hey, did you notice this? What's up with that? But essentially they're the biggest thing behind adding this ability and feature is because they're trying to get people off the Win32 Windows API platform and move to the universal Windows platform for software and things, where they did things like made it harder to access core Windows functionality and self-contained security sandboxes and things like that. And it's cross-platform
Okay.
as far as devices for Windows.
I got some clarification. It looks like it will, when they were deciding, when they
Destroy them company entirely.
no, so when they put out the, was it Project Centennial? So they basically allow Win32 apps to be distributed through the store. So it's possible that, there are some, if an organization does embrace the store, and that's a big if, as you pointed out, it may give them some additional flexibility and security implications, but
yeah, sorry.
I still don't.
Word store. I don't want to give employees access to anything with the word store in it, nor members of the household. Just no. Just bad implications. And I don't see anyone thinking anything different anytime soon.
So,
well, it seems like they really want to move to a self-contained distribution network for software.
Yeah.
And
so there's a cloud. There'll be
to push that.
Yeah,
they want to be Apple, so that they can tell people what they want and what they don't need, even though
even Apple doesn't do that. Apple doesn't make you go through the store. It's only phone devices that have made.
Okay, well, okay, touche.
It would be more of a Google or Apple store, I guess, if you said that, because the iTunes.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
store side, but yeah, it seems like they're trying to push towards that, and I really don't see how that's. I mean, obviously, it's going to benefit them in the long term, but I don't see how it benefits anybody else.
Well, that's why it won't benefit them. That's the thing. I mean, it could benefit them, but if no one is going to embrace it, because obviously it's not going to benefit anyone, then how will it benefit them?
But if you are able to install 32 apps through the store and you enable this feature, then people wouldn't be able to install anything else on there other than things that have come through the store.
There are other ways to do the exact same thing without the store entirely.
Yeah, but it's a lot more complicated than a drop down in the settings thing. But then who has access to that drop down too? So I think the biggest news that came out last week was talking about we should be running in non-admin mode all the time. That's probably a better suggestion for all Google people.
That came out. That was only suggested.
You're probably correct, but I think getting people to do that is even more difficult than getting them to back up their stuff.
Yeah, well, no, Nick, there was a couple articles last week that came out with a percentage rating saying that almost like 91 to 94% of malicious attacks could be stopped by running your user in non-admin mode.
Mm-hmm.
And we had discussed it. I was like, I mean, I don't do that, and no one else here does, I would assume.
No, but I do. And I know it's not the same thing, but I have user account control. I remember that being.
We do all have that enabled.
I leave that enabled default.
Yep.
Everything now.
But the key difference there is, so like with the rubber ducky attacks.
Yeah.
You have that, it's easy to say Alt Y and it just plow through that.
I didn't read it, but I sent a link to you. Speaking of, of just the various attacks, talking about the air gap attacks, and I sent a link, and it was something like, did I get that it was gleaning information by watching your hard drive LED or something, or
so what it is, what that was? Yeah, what we talked about it afterwards. It was interesting. It was basically what that was is malware infects the system and then takes over your LED control. So any LEDs it has access to, it takes those over and can like Morse code out
Right.
information. And you wouldn't notice it because you would just think it's a blinking hard drive activity.
And I just say, neat.
Yeah.
But that's the same. It's the same thing as what was it, Superfish with Lenovo or something, where it was using inaudible tones generated by hardware piezo elements and things, and
hmm
just buzzers and whatnot, and like your phone could talk to your computer through inaudible tones.
Well,
Yep.
apparently that still goes on in apps. It's not
Mhm.
that hasn't stopped apparently.
Yeah, that sounds like the same thing to me, actually.
Well, I actually had an app. My uncle got a cheapo security cam, and the app itself played like barely audible noises to try to transmit the password to the security camera. So you're supposed to hold your phone up next to the device while it's doing its transmission thing,
What?
just transmitting audio to it, and it picks it up and sets the Wi-Fi
Did it
password.
work well?
It did not. No, we ended up having to hook it up with the LAN cable.
Mm.
But I was just like, that is interesting that they decided to take that route for that.
Mm-hmm.
I could see if it worked, that would be interesting. But
It's probably because the tones were. I mean, they were probably using. It's probably because they were using like Audible. I mean, like the whole. I mean, there's like you got to know what you're doing there because there's all kinds of tones you need to think about, and other background noise and white noise and goodness. You ever tried to remove the buzz from an audio track, like from a like a
yeah,
PA system or something? Goodness. I mean, there's like a generic bzz, blast of you can make silence, but you're really messing with the rest of the audio when you do that.
yeah. Well, but we had talked about the mitigation side being if you did use a end user account with a password and then had a administrative account that has a strong password, that probably would mitigate a lot of attacks just off that. But it would also increase the fact that you'd have to type in that strong password every time you get a USE prompt.
I'll be honest. I refuse to use like the cell phone banking app. My first initial refusal. I have other reasons for not doing those things, but obviously. But just for example, when I first tried one and it wants you to put your password in every time, like I can't do this. Let me find a computer. It would be faster for me to go to a public library and do like a set up like VPN and design and just. I mean,
This further deteriorates security because then people are then trained to put in weaker, shorter passwords to log in quickly so they can have the convenience of the app, and it creates this weird issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But the long password phrase is another issue, though, because I keep running into the issue that I can't create passwords of a decent length. Like Microsoft limiting everything to 16 characters. Bummer, because I want if you're asking me not to use a complex password, then let me have 50, 120 characters. Why are you limiting me like this? Because I can whip out some sentences that I can
Well, the like we saw in the brute forcing, it's close to impossible to brute force stuff that's over 10 characters.
10 was it?
Yeah, even
It
with
was
the regular.
14. I thought you wanted 14 or 24. There was a 4 in there. It was,
Well, when we were doing it on just the basic stuff that we have, it's hard to. It was impossible for me to crack a 8-character web password or 8-character WPA password with
really?
letters, numbers, uppercase and lowercase, and symbols. Like
Mm.
there's with that many combinations, it's almost impossible for your standard hardware. You might be able to send it to a place that has computing power that can do it, but
Mm-hmm.
at that point, about 10 gets to the point where
But you're also talking about brute force. You can brute force with technique, and I'm not that much into the whole password cracking and whatnot. But from what I've read about the all your secure algorithms and things like that you don't need to brute force like traditionally like everything. You don't need to just start from ground zero.
Well, you do if you
Take advantage of certain exploits, and then you brute force the remainder of whatever.
Yeah, but that would mean that password algorithm has to have an exploit in there for it.
But don't they all?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mm.
Like the WPA one, how would you crack that one?
I don't know. I thought you were into that. I thought you knew that.
The way that majority of brute forcing goes through is with dictionary attacks where they take words and
right,
and rainbow tables as well.
Yeah, rainbow tables.
But if you're using a 16 character randomized password that's not words or anything, it's possible for them to technique attack that unless they know if you have a pattern in your password, then it's easier to brute force it. But if you don't, then it's almost impossible.
Right.
Just because each character you add adds another like 6 trillion combinations kind of thing.
So the Dharma ransomware is particularly virulent right now and spreading pretty rapidly, and it relies upon its primary vector of infection is brute forcing RDP, which is so surprising that so many people expose RDP just wide open on the internet. I thought that was a little bit, that was shocking to me.
Yeah, and more than likely that RDP account that's exposed and has access
is an administrator.
Is an administrator,
exactly.
And then once they get on the system with that, they have full control over the system.
I had to explain this happened very recently to one of our customers.
We all go,
So with that link that Proctor just posted, how long to hack my password, using all lowercase letters and just picking randomly on the keyboard, 16 characters would take, let's see, that's 12 million years, 12,840,510 years and 1 month to brute force attack. So 16 characters is fairly legit there.
Yeah, and it seems like 11 is the number it takes to get it over hours.
Yeah, that's there was some argument that some people were saying in the discussion of Dharma that they said they had a strong password, and they were saying, but it's 10 characters, and I had somebody say, well, mine was 11, and it got hacked too, and 11 was the largest number that I heard of in that forum that was discussing Dharma.
I thought it was 14, man, that you needed at least. But
I mean, obviously,
I typed the sentence and then just started taking characters away, and 11 seemed to be the sweet spot to where it was more than a few hours.
Yeah, I just typed it in random. I included symbols and everything, and it still, I think it's just based off length for that.
Probably.
But the key there is that even if it is 14 would obviously be better than 11, and it's still less than 16.
Yeah,
it is still less than 16. You're right about that. But you're getting back to, you're getting, and what you're talking about, Brantley, is all lowercase, and that's exactly what I'm talking about for a sentence worth of password.
Well, I was just typing in lowercase, and like I said, I don't think they're taking into account just
the complexity of the password.
Yeah.
Well, right, and they're also not taking into account. It might take that long to go through all of those combinations, but really, you don't have to go through all those combinations. You might get it on the second try, which is microseconds of nanoseconds of computing.
Well, that goes back to the lottery thing. You have to buy 50% of the lottery tickets, to have a
right.
But listen, watch that robot video. Come on, guys. Take a break from this
serious
discussion.
Is it just that Boston Dynamics robot?
Yeah, but I love the way it can jump, and it
Jumping
seems so freaking
around.
stable. And it does look it looks a little creepy too at times, with how perfect it seems to do what it does. Um, it is humanoid, it's so
I
it's
think it's photoshopped.
no, there were previous leaks about this and
I think
smaller
it's a
clips, but
different
this is an official.
apparently they use it's a different app for video. Adobe. What's it called?
Illustrator,
Illustrator.
Photolighter,
It's
Spotlight.
Illustrator. Lightroom ended. It
Yeah.
did something. A Photoshop. Not a picture.
Now you confused Michael. Or they could Photoshop each individual frame and put them back together.
It's animated. Funnily.
All right. Well, we have reached our 30-minute time slot for the day. I did have one last interesting link. We've talked about PGP encryption and trying to use that and the complications of dealing with that. Apparently, Google has released a program called E2Mail, and they've open sourced it. And it's a Chrome extension that simplifies the installation of PGP encryption for Gmail. So you might want to check that out and see.
Hasn't Enigmail done that for quite some time?
Probably, but I don't know if they were open source, and they definitely weren't
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Google.
Hmm.
Okay, now lifting the 100-pound crate from, that's neat. That's impressive, Michael. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
Well, no, and staying balanced on wheels. Like I remember,
it could go
going to
fast too, relatively compared to a human.
right, and I remember a friend of mine at a technical school was only there for the robotics courses, and his goal, of course, this was like around 99, 2002, something like that. So it wasn't, we didn't have this, but his entire goal of being at the school was he wanted to build a robot that could balance a broomstick, like just the unevenness of the broomstick, like a hand, just balance the broomstick. That's all he wanted to do. That really interests him, but it's that weight distribution balance kind of thing that
Allow
that's
this to. Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
I think it's pretty impressive, and this is not. By the way, this is not. That's not a commercial version. This is not something that they're going to sell. This was simply, um, for research purposes.
Neat.
But you can believe that that company is not in business just for you know grins. They're in it for profit, and I imagine that they'll be licensing their technology and advancements out to companies that do want to mass produce these types of things. And I mean, it's got implications for the military too, so it's pretty impressive.
Cool. All right. Well, that is our show limit for the day. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to wrap up and speak out?
Um,
You've trained me
really?
to talk for an hour sometimes. This seems like a walk in the park, but there's plenty to talk about. But we'll save that for another time.
Yes, so we can do other things.
So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back on the Thursday, which will be the 2nd, I believe. Yeah, March 2nd. And again, we are here mainly to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those in the meantime, you can always reach out to us via the various support means on our website. We'll be more than happy to assist you that way. If you want to talk to us directly, though, you can check us out Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until next time, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you later. Take us on out, Michael.